Welcome to the Compost Pile, a podcast where we break down gardening, homesteading, and more. Join your hosts, David Poole and Aaron Barnhill, as they pile up information and break it down so that you can be more successful in the garden.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Compost Pile. It is a podcast for all things gardening. This is going to be our first episode, so thanks for joining us. If you're here, you're day one, and that's very important to us. This podcast is going to cover everything from gardening to homesteading to obviously composting. It's called the Composting Pile. pH, what even is that? I don't know. What is a zone? I think we're in zone 9, something like that. Anyway, if that's what you're interested in, stick around. I think the first 10 episodes of this are going to be maybe a basics, almost like a curriculum, and then we'll just go wild from there. Anyway, I'm Aaron. I'm actually the co-host. The host of this is David Poole. He owns Mid-County Farm and Feed, and he is going to be your expert that was going to take you on this journey of all things vegetables, fruits, trees, shrubs, earthworms. I don't know.
Everything.
Anyway, everything. So how are we going to start it? What are we starting with, David?
We're going to talk about soil, or what some people might call dirt, which is not the right term. But
is it accurate to say that dirt or soil might be the most important thing in gardening?
Yeah, soil definitely, hands down, the most important thing, and that's why we're starting with it, because if you don't have good soil, you're not going to be successful at growing much of anything.
Well, what about things that are grown aeroponically?
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, cool. Well, let's start with soil.
It's a topic to learn. I have a aeroponics kit.
Oh, yeah?
Or some form of a hydroponic or aeroponic kit at the shop.
And that's going to be a different episode, right?
Yeah.
Hydroponics, aeroponics, aquaponics, all of these things. These are all for later on down the road. But today we're talking about soil. We're talking about dirt.
Yeah.
What is dirt? Is rocks dirt?
No. Well, I mean, technically, soil comes from rocks and aggregates, and it's just basically broken down particles of organic matter from all different types of things. It could be from rocks. It can be from recycled wood material. It could come from all over.
So let's just go ahead and start off this way. I live in Beaumont, Texas, and I'm pretty sure that's Zone 9, right?
Zone 9A, to be specific.
Zone 9A. Okay, not 9B, I guess. And my soil in my yard is a crazy mix. It's some places that I dig, it's sandy. In some places that I dig, it's clay. And I feel like it's kind of challenging because sometimes I put a plant in this space and it doesn't do very well. Sometimes I put it over here. What do I need to know about my yard specifically? Or also, I have container gardens. I don't know. Is it important what I put?
Yeah, it's incredibly important, and it really comes down to understanding what you're planting, what it needs. Some plants are going to grow really well in that sandy type soil. Others are going to grow more in a looser, denser mix. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of things are going to love growing in clay, but there's a lot of native plants that can handle those types of soil and that will thrive in it. You know, where they're not really getting a lot of nutrition or water is not as accessible. So it really comes down to what you're planting and more or less actually understanding that you should choose your plant based upon the soil and the location of where you're going to plant or make some changes.
Okay. So my dad always had this saying. He said, don't plant a $50 tree in a $5 hole. What does that mean? I think that means like amendment or something.
Basically, what it's saying is that you shouldn't use cheap soil, or you should be soil focused. So without that good soil,
isn't all soil cheap? It's like called dirt cheap.
Maybe. I mean, it really depends on what's in it. You know, So good quality soil, the soil that people are really going to want to use in a garden space is really going to be a mixture of many different things. And that mixture could change based upon where you're at and what's available. But it really comes down to looking at trying to achieve what they call like a sandy loam, which is kind of like the golden ticket for soil and gardening.
Sandy loam.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is loam?
Loam is a combination of sand, silt, and clay. And it's a balance of those three things. Each one of those different elements has different particle sizes, which allow Like sand allows water to move through much quicker because it's a larger particle, whereas clay.
You mean sand?
Yeah.
That's kind of fine is a larger particle.
It's
Okay.
larger, where
Yeah.
clay is a smaller particle,
Right.
and there's less gaps between those particles, so water doesn't move through it as fast. There's less gaps for air, and then you get compaction. So it makes it difficult for roots, nutrients, microbes, which we'll talk a little bit about.
I imagine that clay also holds water really well too. Because I mean, since you make pots out of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that seems to be a big challenge with my yard because it's so clay heavy that I feel like everything just drowns in it.
Yeah,
Right? We have a good rain. It comes down, it holds the water, and it doesn't really like sink very quickly, and then my plants die.
Yeah, because because those gaps in that clay are so small, when they fill up with water, then the next best place for water to go is to run off.
It does,
So-
yeah, it just runs off.
And so a lot of times you don't get really deep water infiltration. The water, it fills up really quick, and then the majority of it runs off. Whereas if you had sandy soil, it's going to seep through very quickly, and it's going to get deeper, but it's going to go too deep. So sand by itself is not really great for planting most things. That's why we want to kind of come in the middle
Yeah.
and have a good combination of those things.
So what's the biggest difference between soil for the ground for the dirt, right, and soil for a pot or a container, and then soil for a raised bed garden? And I don't know.
Well, so when you're looking at those different types of soils, you're looking at the different types of uses. In the ground, you're typically using it to amend existing soil.
Okay,
And one
okay.
of the most common ways to amend existing soils is by using compost.
Right,
A
right.
lot of really good quality soils are going to be primarily made up of compost. So you're basically embedding the soil in which you already have.
So amending it, you're adding nutrients, right?
Yes.
That's kind of what it is, but not also just nutrients, but the particle size. You're changing that.
Yeah.
That way, it lets water run through it differently, holds water differently. Now, there is something I'm confused about too. When I go to Sutherland's and I'm getting dirt because it all looks the same. What's humus? What
Humus is like the
Humus,
or
hummus?
Humus is
Humus?
Humus is what what it would actually be called.
I don't know what it's called. I just look at the bag and I'm like, what is that?
Humus is basically the stage of soil being broken down. It's in between the mulch stage and the compost stage. So
Okay.
your particle size is about in the middle. So
So mulch being like the green waste, right, and the wood particles and all that stuff. That's kind of like the big chunky stuff.
yeah, and good quality mulch is going to not be just chunky. You want it to be composted and broken down, because if you only have like those big large chunks and they're not beginning to break down,
Yeah.
then they're stealing nutrients away from the soil.
Like that's why you can't just have sawdust, right?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Certain types of woods take longer to break down, so
Yeah.
they can rob nutrients away from plants if they're used improperly. So it's really important to understand those different phases, and if you're moving to do something in a raised bed, you don't need something expensive like a potting mix.
Yeah.
But you do need something that's going to have a little bit more nutrition to it, because you're not just amending soil, you're actually creating a soil. So
Right.
you need that good balance that you're looking for in a sandy loam to utilize as your whole growing space. And then if you're planting in a container, one of the biggest key things about containers are drainage. You need it to drain very well,
Is that why I
because
put rocks on the bottom? Is that why I do that?
actually it's proven that rocks don't make any difference.
Oh, really? Oh,
I've watched some videos, and
I've always put rocks on the bottom of my pots.
I think somebody's debunked that myth, but
Okay.
that's again.
I was like, the rock's got to add drainage. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's got to do it.
if you're using a proper soil, you're going to have that drainage in there already. So
Okay.
like a lot of your good quality potting mixes are going to have some sand in it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have a lot of compost, but they're also going to have things like perlite, maybe vermiculite, which are drainage amendments, and then also some would-
Perlite's like little. It looks like little styrofoam balls.
Yeah.
Is that what it seems like? What it is? It just seems like
It's
little-
almost in
yeah.
all potting soils, perlite. But perlite will break down. So over time, that soil, that drainage amendment is going to go away.
But perlite will break down.
It
so
will.
it's actually not styrofoam then,
No,
right?
no, it is not.
It just feels like it. I'm like, this has got to be styrofoam.
Nope.
But if it breaks down, it can't be, because styrofoam cups will last forever.
Ever.
Yeah, you see them.
Yeah.
I saw one from 1962 the other day. It was just styrofoam cup.
Still there.
Still there. What? So vermiculite is just like smaller than perlite.
Yeah, well, you can eat both of them. You can get different particle sizes. So
Yeah.
when you go to like a common garden center, you're going to get most likely like one size, like a medium to coarse grade.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get it down to fine. You can get medium, coarse, and then like in the houseplant world, like big chunky perlite is like
Yeah.
really really popular. So the size really depends on what you're doing with it.
And then, so we're talking about amendments that allow for water to flow through, right? What is that in the same line as like coconut husks? I've seen that before too, and like Spanish moss and peat moss and all these
Yeah,
things.
it's very very similar. Like
Yeah.
peat moss is going to hold moisture,
Mm-hmm.
an adequate amount of moisture, but it's also going to allow for good drainage. The downfall of peat moss is if in our climate, because we're really hot, we're really
Yeah,
humid.
yeah, yeah.
If you let it dry out completely, then it becomes hydrophobic and it doesn't allow water to easily, soak back up into it.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I've had plants before where I like container plants where I try to water it and then I water it right on the center and then you see the original square block and it just goes boop and
Yeah.
runs right off and goes around the side and I
Yeah.
never knew why.
If you had that square block and you like sat it in water, like a saucer of water,
Mm-hmm.
and you let it wick up and absorb over time, it eventually will break that cycle and it'll absorb the moisture again. Then your coconut core, it's a little more sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually will give you the same qualities as the peat moss. So it's
But without becoming hydrophobic.
yeah, it will always accept water,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great option, and it does really well as a seed starter too.
Okay, that makes sense why all the little plants come in it.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about soil, we have all kinds of size of particulates.
Yeah.
We have nutrients. What is pH and how is I know what pH is. So I know that lemon juice is an acid, so it's lower, and I know that baking soda is a base, so it's higher. But I mean, how is dirt either acidic or basic? Dirt just seems like dirt.
Your pH is going to affect how nutrients are absorbed. So you can have the best quality soil out there, and it can be completely nutritious. But if you're putting a plant in there that likes an acidic soil, and you're planting it in a neutral or alkaline soil,
Right.
then all that nutrition is not going to be available to that plant. So it's not going to thrive.
Like this one plant's going to be like, I can't get potassium because
Right, yeah.
I need acid.
And it can cause nutrients to get locked up essentially and not be available. So then in turn, that's why pH is incredibly important in soil, because if you don't have it, obviously nothing's going to get what it needs. Then if you don't have a healthy plant, then it's going to lead to potential pest and disease problems.
I just thought it was for changing the colors of that one plant, bougainvillea,
Hydrangea.
hydrangea. Yeah,
hydrangeas,
hydrangea. I was like, I thought it was just for that.
Yeah. I would encourage people to test their soil. Not enough people do it. They don't take the time to do it. They'll go out there and they'll do things that will directly affect the pH. Like a long time ago, growing up seeing, people my grandparents' age like gardening, they would always just automatically throw lime in the garden.
Really,
Like pelletized lime or
like when you say that's like limestone, right?
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
dolomitic
Uh-huh.
limestone.
Dolomite, okay.
Not like the household
Not
type lime.
Right.
But they would just like throw it in there and there would be no rhyme or reason. But what they didn't realize, they didn't have any idea where their pH was. But they threw that in there, and over a long period of time, 4, 5, 6 months, that pH is shifting.
It's like building up. Yeah.
And so if they were making those change and they didn't need it, they're affecting their pH. They're swaying it outside the area for whatever they're growing. And then in turn, it can maybe causing some of the problems they're essentially coming back for later on, being like, why is this happening? Why is my plant not growing? Why is it yellowing?
Yeah.
And it all could be because it's has nutrients that are unavailable.
So a little of the real world experience I have with soil is growing up since I was a little kid until now. We've always had blueberry bushes from when I was a little tiny kid, and I'm from Silsby, right? And then my dad now lives in Coons, and he still has blueberry bushes. And I noticed that they do really well and they grow big. And for some reason, I kind of put it together that, we have a lot of pine trees around us, and so the pine needles fall and they decay. and I think they're acidic, and therefore the blueberries like it. But I don't know. That's like my experience with the soil.
Pine
I just
needles
kind of put that together. I don't even know if it's real or not.
Pines do like acidic soil.
Yeah.
Blueberries like acidic soil, so they are well suited to grow in the same areas. And
So it's a correlation, but
Yeah.
not necessarily.
and by nature, honestly, most of our soil in southeast Texas is slightly acidic
Okay.
to neutral. So most of the time, we see people come back with soil tests that have been tested for pH. They come back in that range of slightly acidic to neutral, and that's where you want to be for most plants that you're going to grow in a home garden, most fruits.
Slightly acidic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there are those items like, blueberries that will like it a little more acidic.
Just a little. Yeah.
And you can make those changes specifically to the areas in which you're growing. When you're making that pH change, you're not changing the whole world. You're changing you're changing this area or this raised bed, depending on how you're growing.
What are some of the indicators that would let you know that you need to change your soil?
Like change the whole soil.
Yeah, just how if I put a plant in something in a hole, and how do I know that the soil's what's wrong, right?
You should definitely, if you're putting plants into soil on a consistent basis and you're planting the same areas like over and over again, you got to test your soil.
Okay.
For me, like I would want to test it at least once a year. I want to know where I'm at because nutrients don't just magically stay
Sure.
in the soil, especially when you think about the environment we live in. It's really hot. It's really humid.
It's humid here.
And what heat does is it speeds up nutrient usage, it speeds up decomposition, it speeds up a lot of
It
things.
evaporates water, right? Yeah.
And then the humidity also can stress a plant out in combination with that because it affects how water transpires.
I thought plants love humidity because it's like a greenhouse.
They like some, but not,
but not all, yeah.
maybe not 100% humidity all the time.
So how would I test my soil? I'm sure I don't like grab a handful of it and take it to a lab somewhere.
You technically can. You can always work with your local extension office. In Texas, you have the AgriLife Extension Office. There's one here in Beaumont. In downtown on Pearl Street, you can go there or you can contact them, and they'll give you the information to send off your soil to the Texas A&M lab.
I can bring my soil downtown to Pearl Street and be like, "Hey, I want to know what's in this."
I think you got to mail it off.
Oh, okay.
But you can they have kits and instructions tell you how to pull your samples, and you can mail that off to get like the most accurate analysis of it, where you can test your pH, you can test for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and some of your micronutrients, iron, zinc, copper, some of your mainstay items.
Fungus?
I don't know if they test for organic matter or not.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of different options you can choose to test, and the more you test for, the more expensive it is. Most people are going to stick with the core basics of pH, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium.
Right. I could see where that would be a good thing for a farmer to do. Someone who's like, utilizing their soil at scale, right? Because if you have, like, I don't know, if I have 30 acres of corn, I need to know what the soil is. But it may be less important for somebody who's just, kind of fooling around and dipping their toe in.
Yeah, but when you're working with that and you're reutilizing that soil, you're putting all these different elements into it, and everything makes changes. So if you don't have a base of where you are, then you don't know what to add. You might be adding something that you don't need, and when you add elements that you don't need, then you can actually bind up other nutrients and make them unavailable to your plant. So it's kind of important to know. And also, like with pH, if you're going to make a change for pH and do it naturally, then it takes time. It's not an overnight thing. You're going to make adjustments. If you want to be more alkaline, you can add lime. If you want to be more acidic, you'll add elemental sulfur. And those things are going to break down, and they're going to change over a long period of time. So if your pH isn't right now, I'd be wanting to make changes so I can get my pH in line for spring.
Oh, okay.
So
because things take time.
Yeah, you got to kind of think ahead.
Right.
But if you don't want to send it off and go through that like big fancy lab test, then you can go to your local lawn and garden center and you can buy just a home test kit, and it's going to get you pretty accurate. It's really, really simple to do. There's 4 different vials in a kit.
It's kind of like a swimming pool kit. That's what it sounds like.
Very
Yeah.
similar.
Very similar.
You're basically creating a water slurry and using that with little capsules.
Okay, you're taking a little bit of the soil, putting it in there, making a little soup.
Yep.
Taste testing it, right? We taste test it.
Yeah.
You know,
See what,
so,
see what it's got in there.
it tastes like some blueberry soil right there. You know,
And then those test kits have all those instructions in there on how to make the necessary adjustments. So it's pretty easy to do, but you should get an idea where you are. That way you're not putting the wrong thing in.
what I know about amending soil is what I learned from second grade when we're in that part of the curriculum where we're talking about Thanksgiving, and whenever the white people met Native Americans and then they were burying fish and planting corn around it.
Yeah.
So I mean that's what I know. I know that you're supposed to bury the fish.
Nitrogen.
You just bury the fish directly there, and then you plant some seeds around. So I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot right here.
Yeah. Heck yeah. That's not an untrue statement.
I bet it's not. That's like direct compost, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Direct source nitrogen.
Direct source, yeah. What else do we need to know about the basics of soil?
I think there's one thing left that we need to talk about, and that is that soil is a living thing.
Oh, okay.
It's not. That's the difference between dirt. Dirt is like void of life.
Dirt's like just dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
no nutrients, no living resources of any kind,
Okay.
and we get into like
It makes me think of the desert, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like desert dirt.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure that has a lot of stuff to it.
there's no telling.
And there's no top dirt. There's only top soil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but
Interesting.
like you have to, when you're dealing with soil, you have to be conscious about this web of biology that's happening underground. You've got microbes, you've got fungi,
Right.
and
Bacteria.
you've got bacteria.
Fungus. Yeah.
So bacteria is what's
and,
actually
and animals too. You got earthworms,
Yeah.
right? Oh, okay.
earthworms, nematodes. There's all kinds of different things that you physically can't see, but that are making huge impacts to your soil. Bacteria is vital for breaking down organic matter, so it breaks down root systems.
That's the difference between when we call something anaerobic and aerobic, right? Because that means like with oxygen and without oxygen. And if something doesn't have oxygen, the microbes can't live there.
That's correct.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. cool.
And then so when you think about, we talked about how we have a lot of clay soil here.
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
some of those issues in your backyard.
Right.
Well, clay soil typically can become anaerobic.
Okay.
It becomes compacted, so there's no room for water and oxygen. So it's really important
Because air goes through soil too, not
Yeah.
just water, right? So
and microbes need oxygen and moisture to
Right.
do their job. So, you have that bacteria, which is breaking down things, organic matter, which in turn helps us feed the soil. And then you have fungi microbes, mycelium. We talked about how, I don't remember, how much did you say?
I said I watched a documentary where Paul Stamets, one of the leading mycologists of the world, said that 30% of topsoil is mycelium.
Yeah. And that's
It's
crazy.
wild. Yeah. It's how trees talk to each other. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Mycelium, mycelium is really cool because you basically have these webby, webby, stringy stuff that
Like send
attaches
signals
itself.
to each other.
Yeah, it attaches itself to the root system of trees,
Yeah.
all kinds of different plants, and they trade the plants for sugar, and then the mycelium gives them nutrients. And so it helps plants get nutrients that are maybe outside of their root zone. It also helps, like you were talking about, how they say trees talk to each
Yeah, they
other.
say they
and
talk to each other.
It's through the microbes.
It's like, hey man, give me some help.
Yeah.
There's no rain over here. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cool, and without that, your soil will eventually become dirt if you're
Yeah.
not focused on keeping your soil living,
Yeah.
keeping it healthy, and having that balance. It's just like us. I
Yeah.
often give the analogy that soil and growing plants in a garden is often like taking care of yourself. I mean, a lot of the same principles apply.
I think it's a little easier actually too. So
Yeah,
it's a little
yeah.
easy. I know that some people say that they can't keep a plant alive for anything, but I feel like they're just not even trying, right? Because I can keep plants alive, but I'm not necessarily the best for my own health.
But and I think that's like, why today we're starting with like that core principle, because if you don't have a good foundation for growing something, then you're not going to be successful. I mean, and some of these principles we're talking about, they're not anything earth shattering or crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about dirt
But
here,
but you have to drive it home, otherwise you will be one of those people that I can't grow anything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's because it isn't that difficult.
So in review, we have, let's say there's a difference in soil and dirt. One is alive, one's dead. Dirt is made of, not dirt. Soil is made of varying sizes of things like particulates, and
Yeah.
that's really important, right? You have clay and you have loam and sand and mulch. All that goes together. We have the alkaline and the acidity that you have to worry about, the pH level. You have nutrients that you have to worry about. So it's quite a bit. I mean, really, I think of dirt as being something so simple, but it really sounds like it can be pretty complex if you
Yeah, it
want
is
it to be.
complex, and
Yeah.
you think about all those complexities, and your analogy earlier about you buy the $5 tree or
$50 tree
yeah,
and a
$50
$5
tree and a
hole.
$5
Yeah,
hole.
yeah, yeah.
You know, that's a terrible
That's
way.
a
It
Silver
should be
Texasism.
a
Yeah.
$50 hole with a $5 tree.
Right,
And
right.
because good soil is going to make plants that are even struggling or stressing have a much greater chance of success, and it's going to make them thrive. And good soil can turn things around.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see just how you look at soil can make such a huge impact on what you do.
And I guess getting further into this in later episodes, we probably learn how to, I don't know, replant something, take
Yeah.
it out of some old soil, put it into some new soil. We'll get further into testing your soil. We'll get further into it. But you know what? I'll tell you that I think that this was a pretty good introduction to soil and
Yeah.
dirt. I think there's a lot here. There's a lot to learn. It's kind of an overview, right?
Yeah.
So what will we have to look forward to on the second
Episode, we're going to talk about fertilizer.
Fertilizer.
We're going to
Okay.
kind of really deep dive a little bit into the world, maybe the controversy of organic versus synthetic, or some people call it chemicals, but as you always say, everything is a chemical.
This T-shirt is a chemical.
Yeah.
My hair is a chemical. Everything is. Yeah.
So we're going to look at like different fertilizers and different ways to amend our soil
Okay.
and provide nutrients, and kind of how that's going to work together with what we talked about soil today, and we're going to piece them together.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, this has been great, man. I've learned a lot, and we'll see you guys back here next time.
Yeah. Thanks.